All right, welcome everyone. So today with me I have Eze. Eze is a Florida soccer state champion, programmer, and quant wizard. We've known each other for many years. We played soccer together, and it's a pleasure to have you, Eze. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Matthias. It's been a while.
It has. But super glad to get this started, to get the show on the road, and to explore some awesome ideas in the AI space. Because as we were just talking about offline, things are moving very fast,
Yes.
and it's cool to get these ideas out, see how the world is doing, see how the world is building. We have new form factors, so just all a bunch of exciting stuff.
Definitely.
So, all right, easy. So, how has AI changed the way that you learn new concepts?
Quite dramatically, actually, and I think for the better. Um, just kind of using it as a personal tutor of sorts instead of like going on YouTube or, Google, Stack Overflow, Reddit, whichever platform it is. You can really get a lot of really specific feedback into how to do something if you're encountering any issues or just trying to learn something new, like a personalized tutor that just you can ask anything to and it'll respond exactly what you're asking. So it is a great tool to learn new things, but also at the same time, kind of glad that throughout high school and college, Chat GPT and all these other like LLMs that now are like very smart, wasn't around for that because I feel like it's also very easy to not learn and just get straight to the answer. So it's really just about how you use it.
100%. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the personalization that you touched on, specificity with which it allows you to explore concepts and go in many directions. And I love the way that it will many times prompt you, like it'll prompt you, like, do you want to go in this direction? Do you want to go in that direction? It'll connect ideas. You can remix ideas that might give you a different perspective or give you an analogy that allows you to better understand something. And I think that's super powerful. But and that second point that you made, having to learn things yourself is so important, is so key. Because at the end of the day, a lot of AI, it's very useful, but sometimes it's not perfectly factual. And you also don't want to outsource all your thinking.
Absolutely.
You want to be able to do the thinking yourself, challenge yourself. And what I try to do is I try to do as much of the thinking as possible beforehand. Like maybe I'll spend 30 minutes like really thinking about something deeply, and then I'll go to AI with what I came up with, and the result is so much better. I mean, it's garbage in, garbage out, or gold in, gold out.
Exactly. That's a
So
good way
yeah,
of putting it.
yeah, no, totally, totally. It's cool. It's cool, but it's dangerous. You don't want to become dumb, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's really easy to just, have an idea and be like, okay, build this, but then you don't actually understand the strategy that goes behind it or anything. So, like I was reading up on that article that you sent me, like your framework of coming up with requirements and then giving that to Cursor AI or whichever IDE that you're using, and like I think that's the way to go because it you're still doing the thinking but you're just getting rid of the small steps from the strategy to the execution a little bit. So it's very important.
Yeah, no, and I think that's exactly it. When it comes to programming, like you want to be architecting the system. You want to understand the different modules of your application. You want to understand each function, each API endpoint. You want to see how it all connects. And maybe like you're writing some CSS, and you already know like, all right, like give me a class for a button, and you already
Mhm.
kind of know how you want it, and you just want to get it done quick and move on to like the system part of it, and then boom, like that's what you use it for. But when you just say, okay, like you just throw something at it and it's like go do it, you lose complete track of your system. You can't edit the code. It's great for prototypes and people
Yeah.
who don't know how to program, but it can be very dangerous. Like it'll let things get away from you. And even for writing, I mean, like I'll be honest, there was one point like a few like maybe a year back where I wrote a couple of posts with AI, and I wrote the post and then I just let AI edit. I was like, AI, edit it. And I go back, I look at those posts, I'm like, wow, those posts are the worst posts I've ever written because you just outsource your thinking and you depend on a probabilistic machine, and that's not the way to do it. I think it's good for like creating and exploring ideas and like that what you said, like doing the grunt work in programming, like you know the function you want to write. Maybe you're moving super fast. You don't want to like write that function, but you know what the function does, like the input, the output, how it's connected to the rest of the system.
Yeah,
Boom. That's where you use it. Like,
totally.
but yeah, different uses, because you could also like explore ideas for hours and just dive down rabbit holes of logic and economics and
Yeah.
just you can literally remix ideas. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Sometimes I'm like, all right, like I'm done. Like all right, I have to get off of this because I'm gonna spend 3 hours.
Yeah, it's definitely can go down very big rabbit holes. But I mean, it is cool because it basically has like all of this knowledge from, just what it's been trained on, papers, just scraping the internet, whatever. So to explore and create new ideas, it is cool to like kind of just talk to and bounce things back and forth. But I I don't know. One thing I've discovered with AI specifically when you have an idea is it'll never tell you it's a bad idea, even if it is a bad idea. It's like very yes man, like, and it will encourage it even if it is a bad idea. So that's something that I've noticed, and I wonder if they will like change it in its like training. But yeah, that's just something silly that I've noticed pretty recently.
I feel like that's so hard to do in training. Like with reinforcement learning, like yeah, you can do it, but a lot of the times, like the LLMs are generating the data for the training, and the LLMs are also judging the data. And I think AI doesn't have like uh, understanding of ground truth when
Yeah.
it comes to subjective areas. When
Hmm.
it's when the reward function is very well defined, like in programming or in math, where
Hmm.
either the program runs or you get to the answer of the math problem, it's easier for the AI to make solid predictions because it has a better reward function. But when
Right.
it's subjective, like for example, and this isn't like yeah, like it was kind of a yes man type of thing, but
Hmm.
I was like looking for a headline for one of the posts that I was writing, and the idea like it looked good, like it like looked good on paper, but it didn't hold an understanding of truth good enough to really make that a headline with good principles behind it.
Right.
So, and I even think like, okay, like, yeah, you can ask it to write an app, but if your idea for the app isn't good, then it's just useless,
Yeah,
you
it
know?
is.
Like, and also like even when it's coding itself, like it can't maintain like giant context windows.
No.
So it like it's called coherence, where at a certain point it might like if you let it run too freely, and I've done many experiments, it'll just like duplicate its own code and like put folders, repeat folders, and then call files from certain folders that don't exist. Like that coherence thing is interesting, but the models are getting better, and I don't know how these giant companies are doing their training and their learning.
Hmm.
Who knows? It might get better. They might find something more innovative. Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
So tell me about your programming journey. Let's step away from AI for a little bit. Like, how did you start programming? Like, why did it come about? Um, and yeah, like, where are you today?
So I guess this all started like I guess since I was a kid I was always like pretty decently good at math. Not like top of the class, but also like I could hold my own. So I always had that sort of brain for it. And the first coding class I ever took was a robotics one where you just had to like basically program the robot to go around like obstacle courses and stuff like that. I don't remember what programming language this was even in, but I remember just thinking like, wow, it's literally doing exactly what I tell it to do, right? So it's a position where you're like in control and you can just really make anything happen. And I really liked the idea of that. So then moved on from robotics onto uh, like Java was the first like real, I guess, coding language that I learned, and like all these principles of like object oriented programming and like inheritance, polymorphism, everything. It's like you can really do a lot with that. And those concepts kind of just like clicked very, very easily. I don't know if it was due to like I don't know if it's right brain or left brain, the one that's like responsible for the math part, but it just like clicked very easily. So I was like, okay, I'm willing to at least put myself out there and try to do this in college and learn how to do it. Um, and then, so I started college and it was COVID year 2020. So it was all remote classes. And I remember taking my first intro to CS class, and it was just so hard because you have no like in-person interaction with the teachers like at all. You basically have to do all the research by yourself, and just I was really close to calling it quits because
Wow.
it was too much for me to just like, I guess remote wasn't what I was used to at that point. Um, but I ended up dropping the class and being like, okay, I'll take it again once classes are in person. And that helped a lot. You know, I think in terms of learning, like I'm a person that I learn the best when I have a crack at things and like actually try to do it myself. But just the first step of like setting up the IDE, like I did the mistake of, I had a Mac, and for that class, they were like, for Mac, you can use Xcode or Visual Studio. And I was like, oh, Xcode is Mac only. I'll use Xcode. And I mean, I'm not hating on Xcode at all, but it was just not for me, not for me.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
just being able to like even look at other people and how they set up their stuff in person and kind of doing that shadowing part really helped get my bearings. And then, well, after that, I mean, it's been a pretty long journey to where I am now. But yeah, I mean, now uh, I do some like side projects by myself to keep sort of like the creative mind going, because right now professionally I'm working at a quant startup, so it's a lot of like deep math and like model creation and stuff like that, and I do mostly back end work at my like full-time job. So I don't want to lose that kind of visual creative part of like creating a good UI and stuff like that. So
Totally.
that's why I also try to have time for projects, side projects for myself. But it's I don't know. I still stand by that. I mean, front end versus back end. There's debates which is harder. I don't know, but the back end is really the core. Like you don't have a working back end, like sure your product can look pretty, but it's not going to work. So
100%. Yeah, scalability so important. Provisioning the right servers is so important. Security is so important,
hmm
and defining the right endpoints for your front end to actually work. I mean, they're deeply interconnected. At the end of the day, what you want is a user experience. But like you said, without a great back end, there is no front end. And speaking of back ends, I mean, we see all these companies building these giant GPU centers and routing compute to there. And it's very interesting to me just how ubiquitous and easy these AI models are on our phones. And you submit some prompts, you get a few replies that are very sophisticated and very powerful. And I feel that that every software interaction has a hardware reality. And the hardware reality for these kinds of projects are immense. It's just very interesting, like how all the networking works. And then you send your bytes over to, AT&T, and then AT&T sends it over through the cable, and then it goes to the data center, and then it goes all the way back. It does some GPU inference, and then that GPU inference is dependent on thousands of hours of reinforcement learning and crawling the internet and storing all this data and storing all the metadata of the training. And backends are they're really the key, and that involves all these precious raw materials from all over the planet and decades and almost centuries of engineering that have gotten us to this point in society. And it's very interesting, and I feel like we take it for granted often.
Yeah.
And speaking on that UI point, I think that's a good area to explore next, because I feel that AI is wonderful, but AI is sort of an afterthought to our current operating systems and our sort of current paradigm of computing. And I think that there's a new paradigm coming where maybe the form factor is a little different, like audio, visual components with augmented reality, virtual reality. And there have been companies that have been talking about building entirely new operating systems. Honestly, I wanted to build an operating system like a year ago or 2 years ago. I didn't fund, or haven't funded $100 million to go and do that yet, but so what do you think about the new form factors? What excites you the most?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a pretty big one for me, like, is you mentioned audio, and I think a lot of people don't think like immediately like, oh, AI and like sounds, audio kind of thing. They think more so just like coding and things like that. I actually had a project where I tried making a AI model where it would just feed in MIDI kind of like patterns from multiple different songs, like classical music songs. I found uh, online the MIDI patterns for that, and I tried, you know, it was a lot of training hours. It crashed my computer a couple of times, but um, I mean, this is just like a side project, and it created a brand new sound based off of that. So I think there's a lot of like possibility in the terms of audio and obviously like image generation, which could link to UI as well. But I think I don't know. I think that one specifically will. I don't know if it will be like super well received by people. Like, oh, I'm listening to AI music or something like that. I think it's gonna become a reality, but people are gonna have to like accept it a little bit that there's this other creative force that can be uncomfortable for some people at first.
For sure, for sure. And yeah, audio is a really interesting space. The other day I made an AI generated song because I was building a website, and I wanted a song for the website, so I was just testing out one of these tools, and the song is like, it's a decent song. It sounds like Zed made it, like one of
That's
the, like it's like a good song, but
crazy.
it wasn't really like, it didn't actually do what I was getting it to do. I haven't experimented that much with it, but even just like advanced voice with some of these AI models, and I'm imagining like, okay, you have like your AR glasses on, your VR glasses on, and you just speak things into existence, like, hey, I want to open up a side panel on the right with my IDE, and then I want to create a scene with mountains and jungle forest,
Hmm.
and it just does all of that in real time. That also involves 3D generation models, and I think these are coming. There are some companies doing spatial computing which are going to make the recognition of objects in reality a possibility in a cohesive way.
Right.
And it's so interesting because at the end of the day, your AI is looking at reality, and over time, it's picking up patterns of how reality is put together. And it's kind of how the brain does it too, but we do it over time. And nobody has like the same understanding of the features of reality. AI also does that, where the features are different depending on different models, different
Yeah.
hardware it has access to. So I think that the whole feature engineering and deep learning, where it engineers its own features, is such an interesting arena and realm. And there are just so many different models and components that go into this final form factor. But yeah, even in like an assistant that you carry around all day, and an assistant that like it'll be in your robot, and then like you can talk to your robot. But then when you leave, like you still have the same software assistant, but you have it on your AR glasses, and you're like, hey, like tell me how to get to Publix,
Right.
and it like has like arrows, like like I don't know, like it. I feel like that part of it's infinite, and I, I'm really excited for it. I think you could build a lot of cool things in that realm. But without a
Yeah.
back end, it doesn't work. Like,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I can definitely see that happening in the near future with the um, AR glasses and everything. I don't know if you heard about. I forget what the name of the guy who was doing this, but he was like creating this. It was like an anti-leak code kind of product where it just shows up on your Mac, like the answer to like uh, coding interview questions. And he got kicked out of school for that, and he got like his Amazon internship rescinded, a bunch of stuff. And he just completely pivoted to creating like kind of like what you just said, like some AR glasses where you can like talk to an AI and kind of just like it expanded from like this whole like oh I guess like cheat on your coding interview to just like a tool that you can just use in day-to-day life. I think it's still in the prototype stage, but like I'm sure they're not the only ones trying to do this as well.
yeah, yeah. No, it's a pretty interesting space. I know, I think Meta got a few contracts with the government to develop some AR weaponry. Yeah, like enhancing perception in the battlefield. Different realm. I mean, I'm more focused on creativity and
Yeah,
well-being and peace, like no
absolutely.
war, but like these weapons that they're making are pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah,
like literally like eagle's eye, right? Like imagine just like a super camera software that will just zoom in like I don't know 5 miles away.
crazy stuff.
Yeah, and like just like recreate the pixels based on prediction, kind of like Nvidia does.
Yeah,
Things like that. I mean, the possibilities are just infinite. It's going to take some really good engineers and a lot of time, a lot of dedication, but 20 years down the line,
for
things
sure.
will be pretty interesting. Also, farming, I think is important. Better ways of farming, and that's all data. Just understanding the world, and being able to extrapolate patterns and then make decisions. What's farming? There's another one. Okay, so how do you think AI is changing teamwork and teams?
That's a loaded question. um I guess there's like there's two views to this. Like it can definitely be changing it in a positive way, but also in a negative way. Um, I'll start with the positives because I'm an optimist. So I think in terms of how you collaborate, AI can definitely be a really good tool to just sort of like explain and explain what other people on your team are doing, and also in terms of probably like documentation as well. When you're in like a big team and there's multiple features, and probably some of them are gonna overlap, just having that uh, documentation and using AI to like help document it could be huge because I mean I don't know if this is just me or like a general thing. Uh, I love reading documentation when I have to. I hate writing it. Like it's just I can't make myself do it. I mean I have to sometimes, but it's just like such a chore. So in terms of like giving it a small context of what you're doing and being able to document it and obviously reviewing it to make it make sense to other people reading it. I think that's pretty huge in terms of what you can do there. Um, but then the flip side is, um, it's very common for AI to kind of when specifically in coding, you don't give it like very specific instructions for a new feature or something. It can just go off the rails and create something crazy. And when you're in a big team or even a small team, but it changes something drastically, that might not be exactly what you want. And just being aware of that, it's important to just not let it just take the reins and change something that other people in the team are going to be using as well, and then makes it unusable for them. It's very important.
It's so easy for that to happen. Like it's so easy for it to go off the rails. I feel like different IDEs are getting better about how to rein in the AI. As you said, a feature gets created, maybe something you don't even know about. Maybe it wrote 1,000 lines of code and you checked 800 and then it broke something that someone else is working on. And that you have to be really careful because as much productivity as it brings, if you're not prompting it right, you're you're going to get something wrong. And even if you are prompting it right, there's a small chance that you also might get something wrong. So,
Yeah.
writing the right tests, making sure everything is well put together. I feel like, yes, like it'll 10x your speed, but that also means that you need to do 10x the work of understanding everything that's happening. Maybe you'll pick up a new language very quickly,
Hmm.
but you also need to take the time to understand the concepts. And yeah, it'll help you understand the concepts like we were talking about earlier with specificity and personalization,
Yeah.
but you still have to rein yourself in and you have to rein it in, and you need to keep the architectural understanding of the project.
Yeah.
If not, things will go off the rails and everything will just break.
Absolutely.
So, and I think it's very important what you were saying earlier of having the muscle memory of programming without AI, of understanding components, understanding specific principles and properties of programming languages and certain data structures and nuances and those rules that belong to each one of those components is super key. And it's something that maybe a super vibe coder might just not grasp the importance of, and then they get out of college, they get thrown in a production system, and they just don't know the properties. But I guess that has to do with hiring principles, and
Sure.
that's a whole conversation with how do you teach to people to code with AI. I think like if you ask me, like I would do like some classes where you cannot use AI, and
Yeah.
then some classes that specifically teach you how to use these tools. Because you can't hold people back, but you also can't throw them into the probabilistic fire that AI will put you in if you're not careful.
Yeah, I mean, totally. And I would I would really actually like for just the core principles of CS, it would be really important to like, you know, don't use chat, don't use Claude, like learn it yourself. It's just like how do you control that? It's like it's really hard. You can't just like block ChatGPT for one class as like a administrator of a college or something. It's a really gray area, but definitely for like the foundations, it's super important to not depend on that.
Okay. All right. So let's finish up. Let's finish up here.
Sounds good.
Let's think about what are a few ways that, like a few tips and tricks. If you had to give somebody a few tips and tricks on using AI for personal use, for programming, like what are a few like little strategies you like to use?
For sure. Yeah, I can think of a couple. I'll start like I guess a bit more professional, less personal, but like in work, for example, at my work, we have the GitHub Copilot, which compared to other IDEs like Cursor or, Windsurf. There's a couple other ones there. Its context window is really, really small and it can hallucinate a lot. So what I like to do is just I don't really vibe code at work that much. I'll more so ask it questions as to like help me understand what I need to do. Um, and it is really good, I will say, for writing tests once you have a something that's like functional and you want to write like unit tests or integration tests, whatever it may be. It's really, really good and just like the nuances that come with it. But yeah, in terms of that, just like for specific components and understanding how they work, I I definitely that's what I do. Just like um, identify one function and be like, okay, how does this interact with other parts? Like, if I wanted to do this, what would I have to change? But actually do the changes myself.
Yourself. Okay.
That's I guess that's one tip in terms of in the professional, and then personal. I mean, I really like the new like deep research I guess functionality that a lot of these new models have. I think I tried like the Google Gemini one, and I was like trying to plan a trip, and I was too lazy to look at all these different sources and like search, I don't know, TripAdvisor, whatever it may be. So I was just like come up with 10 specific recommendations of things that I should do or visit, and then I give like my preferences of like, okay, I want to go hiking or restaurants, whatever it may be. It's really good at scraping data, giving the sources for where it came from, and outputting it in like a simple PDF or something like that, where it just cuts down the amount of, I guess, research that you have to do in the first place to get those answers. Yeah, I don't know. I've been very much a fan of this deep research kind of like new functionality, and I've been using it a lot lately.
Yeah, I love deep research. I really do. Especially when I have like a complex question and I want to get deep sources on,
Hmm.
I'll use it. And something that I like to do is, so I'll think about deeply like, all right, like here's what I want to ask the AI. I'll sort of write a little paragraph about what I want to write. And then like at the beginning of the paragraph, I'll tell the AI like, write me a deep research prompt. So I'll do a meta prompt
Oh, I see.
and then give the the actual prompt to the deep research. And then
Yeah.
of course, like when you do the meta prompt, AI will sort of come up with its own structure of how it wants it to do. So I go ahead, edit that. Um, but the whole deep research functionality, especially like if you're trying to learn a new concept or you want to find nutrition best practices from Asian traditions and European traditions and I don't know, Native American traditions. You can go, you can find all of that, you can compile it into a report, you can look through it yourself, and then, obviously test it out in your own life. But, you get the sources, and I think RAG is a great technique to maintain ground truth, which is something that modern AI still struggles. Like it doesn't have a perfect model of reality. It has a very close one in a stochastic, probabilistic setting, but it doesn't, like each word is always a probability. So it's not like this thing does X, Y, Z. It's this thing probably does X,
Yeah.
Y, Z
Yeah.
as it predicts the next token.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think I love deep research. I love meta prompting. Also, like when I don't know how to do something, like I'm using some kind of software. Um, for example, what's the website thing called? It's not Squarespace. It's the other one. It's one that WordPress. All right, so I'm trying to like do something on WordPress that I don't know how to do. I'll tell it like, hey, guide me on how to do this in WordPress, and I'll just screenshots and interact with it instead of watching a 3-hour tutorial. Just do it very quickly. But sometimes its model is based on previous updates of the platform. So you kind of like, you have to try and test things out.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, I agree 100%. It is good for like just brand new stuff that you're dealing with. It's much better than having to watch a whole, tutorial on something. And sure, it can be wrong. It's not perfect, but um, it's much more catered to like your specific use case, and that's something that I like a lot.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. And yeah, just remixing ideas is great. Like literally the other day I searched up like what's the connection between love and economics? And it sounds like a strange thing to look up, but if you actually look at it, you could see like there are a lot of connections between that and how people make decisions, and like it's something you'd think is unrelated and then you throw it at it and you're just
Right.
like, wait, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to stop. So thank you so much, Easy. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for all your insights. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, and I'd love to come back on a couple months with more. I'm sure things are moving really fast. Even in a couple months, we could be talking about completely different things. So.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Awesome, Easy. Thanks.